Hi, my name is Michelle Lewis. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and I own Salt Lake Weight Counseling, where I specialize in binge eating and food addiction issues. In today's video, we're going to talk about stress and how it impacts our body, but also how food impacts stress. So, if you're a stress eater, you know that you feel stressed, you eat a cookie, you feel better. But what's involved in that is pretty complex. So, two things happen there. One, you connect in your brain stress is relieved by cookie. So you create the connection there that wasn't there before. And every time you go back to it over and over again, you strengthen that connection, just like going to the gym and lifting weights, which is why diets don't break those behavior patterns a lot of the time. But what's also going on behind the scenes is that your cookie is engaging your nervous system in a different way to help eliminate the stress temporarily. I stress temporarily. So when we are stressed, our fight or flight response is activated, so our sympathetic nervous system is activated. And then the opposite action of that is our parasympathetic nervous system, or how it's referred to as feed or breed. So when you engage that parasympathetic nervous system, it takes over temporarily and calms everything down, but the problem never really goes away. And the reason this is problematic is because that continued stress over and over again, even though it temporarily makes you feel better, all of those chemicals are still in your body without anywhere to go, because that fight or flight response is readying us for fleeing or battling. And when we're not utilizing those chemicals in the way that they're intended, it can actually have lasting, long-term, really powerful negative effects on our body and our brain. So a couple of the things that tend to happen: one, chronic stress shrinks the frontal lobe of our brain. So the frontal lobe of our brain is responsible for inhibition. So if you struggle in your relationship with food and emotional eating, that prefrontal cortex tells your body, tells your brain, hey, you don't really need to eat that. But if it's shrinking, then you have less inhibition, which means you're going to engage in the behavior more than you'd like to. The other thing that happens is that an area of our brain called the hippocampus actually shrinks. The hippocampus is involved in emotion regulation, so you can see why that would be really important. So the area of our brain that regulates emotion and the area of our brain that inhibits our behavior are both not functioning at full capacity. That sets us up for more emotional eating or other problematic behaviors. So there's that piece. The other piece that happens, I mentioned those stress hormones coming in. So when we have adrenaline that we don't use, we've got sugar that's pushed into our bloodstream to help ready our body for battle. And when we don't use it, it stays there. But the calming hormone that comes in, cortisol, to calm everything down, actually puts more sugar in our bloodstream. And to keep it readily utilized, it creates what we call insulin resistance. So insulin breaks down the sugar, but because it creates insulin resistance, we don't break down the sugar. What does that form? Belly fat. So you've got all of these pieces going along here, and it's creating more emotional eating, which is creating more weight gain. The stress itself is creating more weight gain, and it's kind of a double whammy. So what do you do? Well, there are a lot of things to do. One, therapy can be incredibly helpful to allow you to process stress in a different way so it doesn't become overwhelming, so that you don't continue to go to food as a coping skill. And then also exercise. Exercise has proven benefits to reduce stress. Now, daily exercise, moderate exercise is really great, but I think about that as more of a probiotic. It's going to keep the system more stabilized overall. But in those moments when you're feeling incredibly stressed and you don't know what to do, so you're thinking about reaching for food, do some short, intense burst of activity. It doesn't matter what it is, but if you can get your heart rate up, get your breathing up, then that can burn off some of those stress chemicals. If you want some more information about actually looking into therapy and dealing with some of these issues in a more emotional, therapeutic way, feel free to give me a call today.